Welcome back to the Own Your Awkward podcast. I'm your host, Andy Vargo, and every episode we get into what has made our guests vulnerable and how they've learned how to own their awkward in order to live their best life. Stay tuned so you can hear every awkward moment in today's show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Own Your Awkward podcast. I'm your host, Andy Vargo, and today we have a very awesome comedian and friend of mine, Carole Freeman. Carole, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you on. And, you know, I meant to ask you, I introduced you as a comedian, but you have a lot more than that going on, also known as Keto Carole. You help so many people. So what do you have going on that you want to make sure everybody knows about?
Well, I'm just super excited about the work that I get to do in helping, primarily I help women figure out this keto diet thing as a way of losing weight and keeping it off. So I've got a program I'm working on revising, revamping, and relaunching my signature program. So I'm really excited about that right now. And
awesome.
And people can find me on my website. I should say that, right?
Yeah,
Keto
for
Carole,
sure. And we'll also have it linked.
Oh, okay. Yeah, KetoCarole.com. Carole has an E on the end. It's the very fancy French spelling of Carole. So
that's awesome. I didn't know that was French, but I knew it was fancy. So I love it. So yeah, Keto Carole, and also on Instagram and Facebook with some of the same username, correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and so follow Carole there to see all the great, awesome stuff she has going on all the time, and we'll also have that, and anything fun that comes up, we'll have linked in the description to the episode, so make it easy for you to find it. So that is great. Well, Carole, I like to put all my guests in a fun spot and ask them, what's that thing you've had to get over with in life or own in order to get to where you are today? What's your awkward thing?
Well, awkward thing is going to be a horrible car accident that I went through in 2014. Was rear-ended by a distracted driver and just completely turned my entire world upside down. I'd been working my way through school to get a master's degree in nutrition and psychology, and was doing the best that I could at trying to start my own private practice doing those things. And then that car accident basically had me disabled for a little over a year, and I couldn't figure out what all was wrong with me. And after 172 different doctor's visits, I figured out that I had a brain injury, and just so desperate to get, my goal at that point was to just be able to get out of bed and go back to work. And I've always believed that if we feed our body properly, that it can be healthy and heal itself. And so I went back to, about one little minute of education I'd gotten about a ketogenic diet in grad school for treatment for epilepsy. And I reasoned at that time that, well, if ketogenic diet is something that works very well for epilepsy, and that's something going wrong in the brain, that perhaps that's something I could look into. And, I did a lot of research on it, and I just gave it a shot. I gave it everything that I knew to do. I combined my love and passion of psychology of appetite cravings and habit change, and just, gave it my best shot at starting it, because I'll tell you, I was very highly doubtful that I could even follow a, so-called restricted diet like that. And the change was immediate, dramatic. All the symptoms of brain injury went away, and then as well as the chronic pain I was having in my legs, and the longer I was on it, the more health impact that I had. So, the awkwardness of being stuck in bed, and I'll tell you, Andy, the thing that makes it, something that I really wrestled with about the whole thing was, having gone through that experience was horrible. I mean, I was stuck in bed and I was in pain, and I just was cut off from family and friends in my entire life. And yet, out of that whole thing, I was able to have this wonderful gift of knowing how to do a ketogenic diet for sustained weight loss and health for all of my clients. And so it was a huge missing piece in all the education and the passion that I'd had in my life before that. And so I really struggled with, like, how can this horrible thing be this great gift, right? And so a very wonderful therapist friend of mine helped me realize that it doesn't have to be one or the other, right? And I really resisted in the beginning of the cliche of like, oh, I went through this horrible thing and now I have this gift. You know, I was just like so resistant to that until she pointed out that like it can be both. It can be a horrible thing I went through and also a gift that I was given. And so that's where I sit with it now, and I've reconciled that it is both of those things. And yeah.
Wow. And I think that's such a powerful lesson, because all too often we hear about, you know, the silver linings or the blessings in disguise, and we feel like that means that we can't still have the emotions that are tied to the negative thing that we went through. And like what you're saying, we have the permission. Yeah.
I hated all those cliches, and I was so, like, every time people would say something like that, I'd be like, oh, I just want to punch you in the face. I hate that. Because it felt like I had to let go of the tragedy of it, or dismiss that.
Yeah, and I think that's so healthy, too, because, I have friends that go through hard times, and I hate to say that, hang in there, it'll get better, there's a blessing, because it's like, that when you're out of the situation or when you're not in the center of it, that there's a light that person isn't seeing. But saying so doesn't help that person in the moment, because it's just like you say, it's another cliche that they're listening to, and it's like, whatever.
Right, because as I was going through it, and I was really, really sick and unwell, and, people's attitude, they would say that, like, oh, there's probably a lesson here for you, or like, just, think more positive thoughts. That's what you need to do. Just think more happy thoughts and everything will be fine.
Right. Well, and I can't, I just keep coming back to that 172 doctor appointments before you even found out what the issue was. And how did that feel? Because what's interesting is, and just for listeners, I did not know you until after this all happened, because I met you through doing stand-up, which was something that you weren't doing before this either.
Right.
So when you were in that moment of going to appointment after appointment and you weren't doing keto, I mean, these are all things that I know about you now. Did you have any idea of how your life could be?
No, not at all. And I mean, another piece of what makes this so dramatic for me is that going through school, I mean, I got the best education that there is. However, ketogenic diet was not something that I learned as far as like, healing beyond just epilepsy. It wasn't taught to us as, a diet that people could sustain and lose weight with it, right? In fact, we were taught the opposite of that. We were taught that you should never put people on restricted diets. There's no way to lose weight and keep it off, so don't encourage people to do that. I basically embraced the teachings that we should just eat mindfully and love ourselves as we are, and, eat intuitively. And so, that meant that I could walk to the grocery store every night without guilt and just tune into my inner self and go, what is it that my body needs and wants right now? And the answer was always chocolate cake. And I was gaining weight, and I was developing metabolic syndrome, or I had metabolic syndrome, the family history of diabetes and dementia. And so I basically was just oblivious to the fact that I could be healthier, because I was following the principles of everything that I'd learned, and that was what I was trying to teach my clients at that time. So I had no idea, I was just loving my large body and helping everyone else embrace that. And also the opposite too was that anytime anybody talked about going on a weight loss diet, I was just like, oh, how could you do that? That's horrible. Why would you do that? And that's bad that you think that way, that you're even trying, right? So I had no idea that, what was in store for me. I had no vision that it could be, that I could have a slimmer body and be able to maintain that, and also not feel deprived. In fact, feel freedom from constant cravings and appetite, which is what I battled always before. So no clue what was in store, and no hope of that. And I'll tell you, part of why it was so hard to get proper diagnosis, and I mean, the the ketogenic diet was never going to be anything that anybody offered me, but I couldn't even get proper diagnosis. And it turns out because going to all these doctors, knowing that it was related to a car accident, no doctor wants to say that this is caused by that car accident, because then they automatically have to go to court, or they may be at risk of having to go to court to testify against that. So they were very incentivized to come up with any other explanation for the symptoms that I had that weren't related to that car accident. So, I was healthy and fine before the car accident, but still it was, doctors wanted to say, oh, you're just depressed, or, oh, you might have fibromyalgia, other practitioners just think more positive thoughts, or it's because you're overweight. That's what all these symptoms are coming from.
Yeah, I've known some people who have had weight issues where when they would go to the doctor, that's the first thing the doctor focuses on, so then symptoms aren't getting diagnosed, because it's like, well, you need to lose weight because, of course, you're going to have body aches and pains and whatever, and yet there are other serious things going on, and it's a vicious cycle.
Yes, that was always the first thing, was like, well, you just need to lose some weight. It's like, well, I was already overweight when I was in this car accident, so
right.
Yeah, and it was pretty it's interesting how that's always just the go-to. Well, it must be your weight, right? So I developed central sleep apnea after this car accident as well, which means that it's not the obstructive kind, like the snoring kind that people think of. It's actually where my brain in the middle of sleep stopped telling my body to breathe. And that's the only thing that causes that is a brain injury. And
right, it's not
so
a physical
I went in,
trait,
and this
it's
was
something in the brain.
Yeah, and this was after I'd been following keto. So I went in for the initial assessment, the sleep study, and they took my weight, and I went back, and I lost weight really quickly on when I first started keto. So I lost 60 pounds in 6 months. And so I go back for this follow-up appointment, and I'm thinking that these doctors are just going to be astounded by my weight loss, and they don't say anything about it. And then when the labs come back, or the assessment of my sleep patterns, basically their instructions to me were, well, you should lose some weight. And I was like, did you not look at my chart?
Did you
how
notice?
much more weight do you think I should lose to fix this? And it was like they didn't even. It was just so rote and automatic that this is just what we tell people. We don't even pay attention to the person in front of us. We don't even look at their history or their patterns or anything like that. It's just like, no, this is what we tell people. So I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah, it's like, I'm sorry, you used up all my default answers.
Yeah. You got anything else in your bag of tricks there? Nope. All right, I guess I'll go figure this out on my own.
Right. There is one thing you said that I want to come back to and revisit, and that is how you mentioned that when you were in school, you were studying things, but you didn't necessarily know you didn't feel like you had that passion, like for the keto diet specifically, I think you mentioned. And at what point did you realize you now had a story to go with what you want to do in life, where you could pull those two together and make this part of your story really empower your passion for what you're doing?
Yeah, well, I always had a passion for just, helping people feel their best, physically, emotionally, mentally, all of that. And I'd always wanted to figure out, like a lot of women who've been on diets most of their life, I wanted to figure out that puzzle. I wanted to figure out how we could, slim down in a healthy way, be a healthy body weight, and feel good about ourselves all together. And so I'd done the best I could at getting all the education. I'd studied psychology for, on my own more than 20 years, appetite and cravings, and behavior change. And then, I went and got the best education that I could in nutrition. I also picked up a certification in clinical hypnotherapy because I just wanted all the tools and tricks I could to figure this out. And the diet part of it was the final piece, and I didn't have that until going through what I went through after that car accident. So it was really after the weight started coming off and just feeling and living the way that I was, it was like this big light bulb of like, this is the final piece of what I needed to bring this together. But I got to say, Andy, too, the whole comedy thing has come in the last year for me as well, and that even feels like another piece what's going to help me be able to impact even more people. So that's a whole other interesting awkward story.
Right. Well, and I think it is important to call out and mention how helping people and focusing on people's mindset and what it is that's keeping them from living a healthy life has been a lifelong journey for you, because there's so many people that we see online that are popping up as coaches or popping up as diet specialists because they lost 30 or 40 pounds or whatever. Now all of a sudden they're selling that program to the world. And that's not the case with you. This is something you have obviously gone down several different paths to understand how you can help and empower people. And this was the last piece of the puzzle that getting in this car accident really threw you into.
Yeah. Very true.
Yeah. So what made you start doing comedy?
Oh boy, this is a PG show, right?
PG-13-ish.
Okay, PG-13. That'll frame how I tell the story. Yeah.
I
so
posted
after,
on LinkedIn, but my friends know me, so.
Okay. So after 2 years of doing this keto thing, and my business is booming, and my health, I'm the healthiest I've ever been in my entire life. I'm a long-standing single woman, and I met a guy who I just thought, like, oh my gosh, this is the final thing in my life. I met this guy, and like I've got it all now. I've got it all. My life is complete. We were dating for a few weeks and just madly in love, and let's just say that, at a very intimate moment between the two of us, I had an artery in my brain dissect, which means it's different. So a lot of people know the term aneurysm, where it's like, you get a vessel that breaks. This is actually, we have 4 arteries that supply our brain. One of mine on the inside kind of, the lining of it tore, which puts you at a severe risk of a stroke and death. And so I'm laying there that night, and I horrible headache, and I'm thinking, like, oh my God, I hope I don't have a stroke here, but I don't want to wake him up. I don't want to disturb his sleep and make him take me to the doctor, so I'll just lay here quietly in pain. Oh no. After 4 days of a really horrible headache, I finally went into the doctor just to kind of see what was going on, and it turns out that, then they figured out what it was and immediately transported me to the stroke unit in Seattle, and was in the hospital for 4 days. And, the love of my life at that point decides that after 4 days of me in the hospital that he can't handle it and breaks up with me by a text message.
Oh, my goodness.
And, so I'm heartbroken and head broken and out of, it took me a good 6 weeks to recover from that because of the pain and all that, and reduced blood flow to my brain and everything. And I was just like, okay, I thought I'd gone through the biggest tragedy in my life here already. What the heck is this message, universe, right? Like, what am I supposed to get out of this?
What else?
Yeah. And so it was my older sister that, said, like, perhaps this is, I'm pretty sure, I don't remember exactly how it came up, but it was kind of like, I've always wanted to do stand-up comedy. Like, I'm going to go make fun of this on stage. Let's do this, I grew up in a family where our religion was comedy. We listened to Eddie Murphy and Steve Martin and Robin Williams, and I'd always wanted to do stand-up comedy as a side hobby or something like that. And so I was like, all right, let's do this. What else can what's the best outcome of what just happened to me? But there's got to be some good jokes about this. So that was February of last year, so 2018, and I got hooked pretty quickly and just been going at it, having a really fun time with it since then. So,
well, and it really is, above anything, for the comedian, comedy is so therapeutic, at least in my experience.
Right. Yes.
And
I know there's comics that say, like, don't say that, it's not, don't use it that way. And it's like, but it is. Like, out of being, finding the humor in it is very healing.
Yeah, and even if you're not getting on stage for stand-up, it's that when you're at a funeral and something funny happens and you laugh, or it kind of brings a little bit of healing to the pain that everybody in that room is going through. And that's how comedy is throughout life. And so when you get on stage and do it, it's just a whole new level, and you can talk about whatever you want to. I actually joke that my counselor suggested I needed group therapy, so here I am. I think I showed up at the wrong meeting, but I think the way I say it is, he said that if I get in front of a room full of people and tell them my problems and they laugh at me, that I'll feel better about myself. But I don't know where he got his degree, but it's so helpful. And I see what you're saying, where people don't want maybe that feeling out there that we're all just injured people who can only get through our life by getting on stage and talking about it. But it really is.
Yeah, and it's the truth is every human is an injured soul and being, and we've all had our own traumas and pain in life, and so it not reunites, it unites us all. And
people relate to your story, and the best comedians that I see and connect with are the ones who are telling jokes that are very personal about their story. And when I've told jokes, the more true to my story they are, the better they are, the easier they are to tell, and the better reactions I get from the audience.
Yeah. Then you embellish the version of the story to make it even funnier too. So.
Yeah, just twist it a little bit. Yeah, I think that's what when I took the comedy class with Corey and Andrew, it was, comedy is the truth, and then you twist it until it's funny. I had to explain that to some people. when they're like, is that a true story or not? I'm like, yeah.
Here's the secret for everyone listening, is that not all things we say on stage are 100% true. We're doing it for your entertainment. Our job is to make you laugh. So just I was dating a guy recently that was like, why don't you ever ask me to go hiking? He's like, well, you say on your jokes on the stage that you can't go hiking, and I'm like, that's a joke. It's not true. Let's go hiking.
Oh, that's funny.
I realized after 3 months, I forgot to tell him that not everything I say is 100% truth on stage. So.
Well, and then it's funny too to have people who will start dating you, or you haven't even gone on your first date, and they hear you're a comedian, like, oh, am I going to get used in one of your jokes? I'm like, well,
yes,
probably. It's like that goes without saying. That's like in the disclaimer, if you're going to date a comedian, that's going to happen. However, you have to be rememberable first.
Yes. Yeah, you get both, right? It's like, the ones that are, something embarrassing happens and they're like, you're not going to use that in your act now, are you? And it's like, oh, honey, don't worry, I wouldn't use your real name. And then the other ones too that they're so full of themselves too that they're like, you can use that in your act now. And it's like, yes, that's how that works.
I love that
it's
one.
just something happens and it comes into my act.
Yes, it's always fun when people give you permission to use their life, because they're sure that it's just such a golden nugget. I'm like, okay, thank you.
Yep. Let me have my lawyer get the release form to you.
Right, yes. I hope you're not expecting movie rights or anything to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what next? You said you're redoing kind of some of your coaching that you have for your clients, or your program is kind of getting revamped a little bit?
Yeah, I've got a signature program that I've been running for almost 3 years now, and it's a 9-week. The details of what it is now, it's going to be changing, but it's a combination of a digital course that people go through that teaches them how to do keto in a really simple, easy, effective, sustainable way, along with live person coaching and support. And I 100% of what I do in my practice is this keto diet, and I go to all the conferences and I stay up on all the research, and it is something that's really popular and growing, and we've got a lot of great research on it too. And so it's time to update and revise some of my content, and just looking at the work that I've been doing in the last 3 years is I'm always looking at how do I help people make better create better results and more lasting change. And so I'm in the process of revamping and updating and revising everything to the latest and greatest, and also changing the way that I enroll people. Currently, I spend, an hour to an hour and a half, or even 2 hours per person to enroll them into this program, and it limits how many people I can work with at a time. And so
Sure.
I'm going to be doing some some online live classes that then at the end of that, then I can offer people an opportunity to come into the program that way. So that'll allow me to help, enroll more people at one time rather than getting stuck in the bottleneck of one-on-one enrollment for a course. So it's really exciting, and I'm also training some of my most successful clients to be coaches for me as well. So we've got that in the works that will be, basically I gotta clone myself so we can help more people and help other people have these, lasting health changes.
I love that. It's so awesome to see how successful you have been and continue to be, and not knowing you before you got down some of these ventures, it's so interesting to hear your backstory and really learn how you got to where you are, and it just makes me just an even bigger Carole fan.
Oh. Yeah, I got to work on some more nutrition jokes, so that's where I'm going next.
Sure. Yeah, I know. There's always more to come up with, right? Well, we do have just a couple more minutes. So, what's kind of a last nugget of wisdom or inspiring quote or thought you want to leave our listeners with?
Oh my gosh.
No pressure.
Wow. Yeah, I know, right? This is it. The one thing. What's the one thing that's going to inspire everyone to change? Let's see. How about laugh and have fun in your day, and love people like you may never see them again because tomorrow's never promised. I don't know. There's a phrase or saying about that, something like that, right? And something along too of if you've been struggling with your weight and your health, there is hope, there is help, and if you're interested in low carb ketogenic lifestyle, it is a very sustainable and healthy way of living and eating, and it heals your brain and does a bunch of really great stuff. So that's very not succinct or soundbitey. No.
No, it's great. And I will say too, I saw you in one of your unboxing videos. I did not know this, so it was a surprise. But keto doesn't have to be all about bacon. There's actually some vegan cookbooks that are keto as well.
Oh yeah. It's not my specialty, but definitely there are people doing it vegan. You don't have to. Doesn't have to be all about 75 pounds of steak and bacon a day, although that's very tasty luxury part of what we get to do. So
right.
But
yeah.
There are,
awesome. That was a surprise for me, so I thought I should make sure people know that. Awesome. Well, Carole, you are inspiring. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that there's a lot of misunderstandings about what a ketogenic diet is. People think they need to eat certain foods, but it's more about what you're not eating than what you are eating. So.
Oh, gotcha. That makes sense. So, well, you continue to be an inspiration. I so appreciate everything you do and the bright light and message that you put out there into the world. It's awesome. And thank you for sharing with everybody today. I really appreciate it.
Andy, thank you so much for having me. It's been my pleasure to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, thank you, and we will talk to you soon, everybody. Be sure to check out all of Carole's stuff and follow her on social media and learn how to get your life healthy and moving forward. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening in for today's show. Be sure to visit awkwardcareer.com to continue your journey, and of course, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends so they can find their awkward side and learn how to own it.